Growing up, I was always a big fan of war movies. And the first gun I ever managed to recognize just on sight was the Colt 1911. F-Troop, Rat Patrol, TV shows, the great war movies like Battle of the Bulge, The Bridge Too Far. It was an iconic firearm of the time. But as I got older and started looking more into firearms, I realized that things just don't appear out of nowhere. Looking through the history, investigating the history of firearms, I learned that the 1911 was a descendant of other firearms that came before it. Seen in movies in the 30s, the film noir, the detective stories, the earlier Colt firearms are the direct predecessor to the 1911. And today, we're going to take a look at two of them. We're here on the range today. We've got a very special treat. As you can see, we have two unique firearms here, and we're welcoming back friend of the channel, Stu. Stu, thanks for coming back.
No problem.
Now, we talked last time we used the 1911, and for those of you who didn't see it, somewhere up here, I'll, if I remember, I'll put a link in. And as I said at the beginning of the video, the 1911 didn't spring out of nowhere. It's part of a line of firearms that came out of the late 1800s. And you brought a couple here from the early 1900s to show us. Can you tell us what we have?
Certainly, no problem. We have here two Colt pistols. We have the Colt 1908 and we have the Colt 1903. There were parallel developments at the time for a full-size pistol as well as a medium-size and a pocket-sized pistol, and this is what came out of it. You'll probably see a lot of similarities in design, as in the slide, how it's got the cutout here. You probably also see that these pistols also have a grip safety as well. And again, the Colt 1911 styled trigger.
So let's take a look at the 1908 first. A couple things jump out. First of all, it is incredibly small.
That is correct.
Now this is a 25 caliber, 25 auto. How many rounds does it take?
It takes 6 rounds all in total.
6 rounds?
Yep.
And this would be called a pocket pistol?
Pocket pistol, or back then they call them best pocket pistols.
Best pocket pistols. So typically, unlike today where a lot of people who carry firearms are using inside the belt holsters, or if you're into 70s, 80s action movies, shoulder holsters. In this case, it would have just been put inside a suit pocket or a jacket pocket.
Or back then, they used to wear a vest as well, and hence the vest pocket.
The vest pocket itself. But this would have the same safeties as the 1911 we're familiar with.
Similar.
Obviously, it's got the grip safety.
Grip safety, and you also have a manually applied safety right there as well. The difference between the 1911 and this here is that both of these pistols don't have a hammer, per se. This one here's striker fired, and this one here looks like it's hammerless, but it actually has an internal hammer that you cannot see.
Interesting. So even in 1908, we had a striker fire pistol.
So striker fire isn't new.
Excellent, excellent. So 25 caliber. So moving on to this one, which actually, by the name, I'm assuming it came out before the 1908.
That's
being
correct.
a 1903, but part of the same family.
Exactly.
Slightly bigger and slightly bigger caliber.
Yes. Again, this here is a 32 ACP. And just to let you know, ACP stands for Auto Colt Pistol. And one of the interesting things about the 45, the 32, and the 25 ACP is that they're all subsonic ammunition, which means that they don't go faster than the speed of sound.
Right. Now the 45, I know, is somewhere in the 960 to 980 feet per second. Do you know the numbers for these?
Oh, sorry, not offhand. You caught me off guard there.
But subsonic.
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. Well, why don't we start with the 1903, the bigger one?
Sure. Again, this has your grip safety here, your manually applied safety there, and like I said, I'll just move this forward. The hammer is actually in here, but you cannot see it.
All right.
Okay, and both these pistols use the European mag release, unlike the 1911, which used the mag release, which would be right by your thumb.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's see what she does.
Okay,
Stu, do you want to
No
break
problem.
her in for her first shots for the day?
Sure. Load in the magazine. Rock it back, and let's see how she does. Very rudimentary sights. And there she goes. I engage the safety so that we can put the slide to the rear.
So I noticed she didn't lock back.
Nope. Features that are not common back then. For the smaller pistols, the larger pistols may, but for the smaller ones, they really didn't think about the necessity of that.
All right. We'll just load up the mag. Again, these are, now, a couple interesting points. 32 ACP, 25 ACP. The ammunition itself is not prohibited. However, the firearms are.
Exactly. They're what's called a 12-6 classification. They're prohibited pistols because of the barrel length.
And of course, we can legally use these because you do have that 12.6 prohibited license.
That's correct. Because you don't have to have the license to shoot them. You just have to have the license to own, buy, or sell.
Correct.
There you go.
All right, so let's give this a shot. Now, one of the problems I tend to have is, obviously with these big hands, smaller firearms, they sit awkwardly in the hand.
Exactly.
Tokarev, stuff like that, which are smaller. You can see it doesn't quite fit the palm. So it'll be interesting to see how this one works.
Sure.
Although I will say also that the grip safety is very pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very definite feel when you squeeze in on it. That is very controllable.
Very pleasant.
The kick isn't bad, and it's very easy to come back on target.
Sure.
Very easy. Probably because of the smaller round.
Sure.
Helps.
This pistol here in itself was made in two different calibers, whether it be the 32 ACP or the 380. The 32, as you've already found out, is very manageable, very quick to get back on target. The 380 is actually a much more punishing round. It's sort of equivalent to the idea of 9mm versus 40 Smith & Wesson.
Right, right. All right, well, let's move down a step and get even a little bit more ridiculous in size here.
Sure.
That brings us to the 1908, so developed at the same time, released a little bit later. 25 caliber, which is getting down really small. As you can see by the round, it's really not that much bigger than a 22 long rifle that you get nowadays. Which begs the question, I could buy a semi-automatic 22 long rifle. Why can't I buy a 25 caliber?
Exactly.
Even if it has a longer barrel.
Yeah, it's just one of those funny things, isn't it?
Welcome to Canada. Okay, let's try this one,
Okay,
see
sure.
how this works.
Again, they're kind of finicky because how small they are, but once you get used to that, they're a whole lot of fun.
And as you said, it was a 6-shot.
6-shot.
Now I'm going to hit you with another question here, but you probably have no idea what these would have cost back in the day.
No, not really.
And again, this would be a perfect one for a pocket or vest pocket. Ladies' handbag.
Sure. Garter gun.
Well, yeah, I guess. It would have fit in there very well.
I think that's 6.
I think that is 6, but I can't count. Now this is
So put the slide forward first.
This is going to be really interesting.
And then you can insert magazine and carry on.
This is almost, I guess it would be like the old Derringers from the Wild West. It'd be the same size.
Akin to, yes. One of the big things here I want to tell you to do is make sure that this portion of your hand never goes past the slide here.
Don't want to get bit.
Yes, you'll be in for a rude awakening.
All right, so let's, and of course the problem with this for my hand is I put my finger outside the trigger and I'm almost in front of the muzzle.
Yeah, so you always, thankfully your finger goes in the trigger guard, make sure it goes past the muzzle and
Yeah.
you should be good.
Well, let's see what happens. This is gonna be interesting. The
Very
I just
rudimentary.
noticed the sights. It's basically a groove down the slide. What's interesting about this one is, given the small size, it's a little bit unmanageable in the hand. It tends to travel a little bit more
Yeah,
in the palm.
it's just because it's so difficult. Here, let me just get this.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'll let you do it.
The safety goes two ways. It actually goes up this way,
Oh, and down the other way.
and down the other way to lock the slide.
Right. Okay, so two very interesting pistols. Again, they are kind of a treat for viewers in Canada because they're not readily accessible. But thank you very much for bringing them out. A lot of fun. And again, it's interesting seeing the history of the firearms. Stu, thanks again,
No problem.
and we'll see you next time.